You're listening to the True Blue Podcast, sponsored by the Victoria City Police Union. Real stories told by real police officers working in Victoria and Esquimalt. What are the streets of Victoria and Esquimalt really like? The True Blue Podcast will give you some personal insights into what happens when wearing a police uniform.
Welcome back, everyone, to the True Blue Podcast. I'm Matt Waterman. Today on the soundboard, Sidekick Steve. Welcome, Steve.
Welcome, Matt. Happy to be here.
And today, for all our listeners, we have a number of different podcast hosts in the law enforcement world who are on the line. And we're going to chat with them a little bit about their podcasts and the types of things that they cover. Really looking forward to this episode. It kind of is a little bit different, but I think you'll enjoy it. I'm just going to introduce all the people on the line. From the OPP Association, we have Scott Mills. Hello, Scott.
Hello, Matt. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And also from the OPPA, Josh Jutras. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having us on. I really appreciate it.
And our friend from nearby Delta Police, Chief Neil DeBoer. Welcome, Chief.
Matt and Steve, welcome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
From the Edmonton Police, Nathan Romas. Nathan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. And I hope the technology does not fail us today.
Yeah, we're crossing fingers and toes everywhere. And we also have another Nathan Kapler, formerly from the RCMP and also on the Lower Mainland. Nathan, welcome.
Hey, pleasure to be here. Thank you.
So, guys, before I get started, I just want to as this recording is going to be released not too long from now, I think it's important just to cover off, how many police officers in Canada have been murdered in the line of duty. Unfortunately, in the last 7 or 8 months, it's just been a horrific list of people. And I'm just going to quickly run through the list. Constable Hong from the Toronto Police Service, Constable Gillespie from the York Regional Police, Constable Northrup and Constable Russell from the South Simcoe Police, Constable Yang from the RCMP, Constable Perchella from the OPP, Constable Ryan and Constable Jordan from the Edmonton Police Service, and Sergeant Breu from the Sûreté du Québec. It's a sad day when you have to read that many names in such a short period of time, but I really think they deserve some recognition, and all their friends, colleagues, and family. Okay, what I'd like to do is each one of you hosts a podcast, and I'd really like just a quick snapshot of what your podcast does and the name of it. And if I can go around the table, for no particular order. Nathan Kapler, you run the 1033 podcast. Nathan, can you give a quick synopsis about what your podcast is and kind of the topics that you cover?
Yeah, absolutely. My podcast was created to kind of just create an open space to have connection and conversation, and ultimately community surrounding post-traumatic stress and all of the challenges that we go through with law enforcement in regards to mental health and some of the struggles that come from just the impacts of the job and experiencing trauma. And it's been a phenomenal experience to see that. Obviously the need is there to have these deep, rich conversations with people, but it also has helped promote so much healing across Canada. So I'm lucky to have stumbled on this myself.
How long ago did you start, Nathan?
I started back in January of 2022.
Okay, right. Yeah, I've listened to a number of your episodes, and I know you've been a guest on a couple of the other podcasts, which is interesting, but it's very interesting to hear all of the stories related to, PTSD and managing it, which as you've described yourself, how difficult it is. But thank you again for that. Let's go to the other Nathan with the Edmonton Police. Nathan Romas, we've chatted over the last couple of years as you were getting started with your podcast, but please tell our listeners a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just start with saying thank you to you. You were a big part in helping kind of get things running and explaining all the craziness that goes to setting up some of this stuff. So thank you again. And the Quiet so it's basically a voice for the front lines. I get a chance here. Get FaceTime with people that the normal people don't get to talk to on the day-to-day. So from politicians to chiefs of police, but also just across the globe. I've chatted with some people in Australia and the US. I figured when I was starting it up, who better than a currently operational member to kind of give some credibility, recency, maybe some weight to all these conversations going on. The podcast itself touches on a very wide range of topics, but generally the nexus is something to do with justice, law enforcement, kind of in that realm. And it's just it's been a great platform. It gives the ability to offer real-time insights and give depth to conversations that might be a little more divisive nowadays, but we're bringing people to the table and finding that common ground. So that's what the Quiet Professional is about.
Yeah, and I'm interested. Can you share with us a little bit about why you picked the title, The Quiet Professional? I think that's kind of a good story.
So that title, it was actually, I was listening to a number of podcasts. I don't have enough time today to get to all of them out, mostly, but I've heard this term used in relation to special forces, but also in relation to some policing stuff. And it just got me thinking of how, and maybe we'll get into some discussions that we're going to do today, but we just kind of go about our business and people really don't know what we do. People don't know what is around them, some of the dangers that are out there. And, it's for the members that just put in the work on the day-to-day, go about their business, don't ask for the recognition, and not that you can't, but just they're not looking for it. And I thought this was a good title to have for, especially for a number of guests that we've had on and are looking to have on. It's maybe that little recognition piece and saying that, we do have a voice at the end of the day. And if I can help people get their message out there and provide a bit of a platform, that's what I'm here to do.
I love it. Okay, thanks, Nathan. Let's go all the way to Ontario. The OPPA, obviously, they have thousands of members in the OPP. The podcast is called 10-5. Scott, maybe can I call on you just to make a quick comment on how things got started and so on. I haven't really pre-planned who's going to answer what, but maybe Scott, can I put you on the spot there?
Sure. So the 10-5 podcast started up about a year and a half ago. We've got 90 episodes out. Josh Jutras is on this call here, is the co-host with myself. We're both, at the time it started, we were both strategic communications coordinators for the OPP Association. And the purpose of our podcast was to primarily communicate with the close to 10,000 members of the OPP Association and have the conversation overheard by anybody that was interested in the public. And we've had a number of guests that focus on any and all issues of the day that affect policing. And we've tried to put a lot of information that a police association would be trying to get to the members out there that explain things like pensions and benefits and things like that out there. And we'll turn it over to Josh. If Josh can give a little more insight
thanks, Scott.
from his angle.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Just a couple things to add on to that. Like Scott said, it's definitely been a member-centric endeavor. the pension benefits piece, but not just the kind of day-to-day stuff like fleet and uniform and talking to the commissioner. We've had some really compelling members come on to tell their stories about their journeys with mental health, about being a cop. And that's the stuff that's really resonated, the stuff when we get our members on telling really good story. That's the stuff that really turns my crank, quite frankly, and really resonates with our audience.
Yeah, that's a good addition. Thank you, Josh, for that. Chief Neil DeBoer runs the Bendo Break podcast. Chief, you guys have probably been running the longest, and go ahead, let us know a little bit about your podcast.
Well, first of all, thanks, Matt, for the opportunity to be able to speak to you about this. And I certainly listen to your podcast all the time and all the other podcasts across Canada. So it's great to finally get to speak to all of you personally. And it truly is not just the Delta Police podcast, but we believe our podcast is for all first responders. So really, the Delta Police are the host of it, but it really resonates with all the people that are first responders. And we know that the first responders are on the front line daily, keeping our communities safe and facing some of the most dangerous situations. And it's no doubt that their mental health can take a toll. Over the course of the last several years, first responder community has worked very hard to reduce the stigma and increase awareness on sort of fostering this care culture, or this culture of wellness. And our podcast hopefully provides a platform for those who protect our communities, 24/7 to share their stories about the stark realities of PTSD, of mental health, of, all the well-being types of issues, addictions, family and relationships. And it's truly through, as Josh said, the power of story, people sharing their story, that, we explore the depth of their resilience and their personal strength. So we're fortunate. We've been running now since probably late part of 2018 into 2019, but we don't do as many episodes as many of the other podcasters. So I admire their ability to be able to get so many episodes done. And typically we put out about one a month is sort of what we work towards, as compared to others who put out almost one a week.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. As I said, when I first started doing the research to sort of look at what was out there, you guys were one of the few that was in Canada, and a good model in my mind. And your topic area is obviously very popular in the sense that people want to know more about resiliency, etc. So thanks for putting it all together. Just on some topic discussion a little further, guys. One of the things I wanted to talk about was the police culture of basically not speaking out or sharing the feelings. But, Josh did bring it up there. Maybe, Josh, you can just expand on that. And, did you have difficulty having members come on to the podcast, or was it an easy sell?
You know what? To their credit, we had put out very early when we started the podcast, we had put out calls for the membership to come forward with their stories and stuff. And to our members' credit, the members who had been struggling with mental health issues were amongst the first to step forward and tell their story. And it took a tremendous amount of courage for these people to come on the air and just say everything. But it's so helpful. They have great stories to tell. They're relatable, because as many people who have come forward with their mental health concerns, there are just as many people out there and more who have not. And this culture that continues to be in detachments across this province, across this country, that you can't speak out about this. It has to stop, right? Like, I don't know what else to say. Scott, you want to jump into anything else? But it's just got to stop.
Yeah, I totally agree with Josh. And it's interesting because there's kind of a reluctance sometimes to even air some of these stories. And thankfully, we've had some really solid leadership at the OPP Association to get these stories out. And it seems the ones that we've kind of like hummed and hawed about, do we really want to say that in a public forum? Those have resonated the the best with our listeners, and we're well over 50,000 downloads now. Which isn't earth-shattering or anything like that, but the fact that we've had 50,000 people listen to some of these stories, I think, is creating the awareness, and we have more and more people that are members coming forward and saying, "I wouldn't mind telling my story." And, it seems to be harder for us to get other content other than, people telling about their mental health journeys than it is to actually get people to tell their stories. So we're wide open for anybody that wants to approach us with any type of personal journey story, because it definitely gets heard, and it definitely helps people that might be struggling out there to go and seek their own help to get them feeling a little better.
Yeah, thanks, guys, for that, because it's interesting, the mental health people or people struggling with their mental health are the first to reach out, and I think that's fantastic. That's one of the Nathan Kapler, who runs the 1033 podcast. It seems, and maybe you can sort of refine this, Nathan, but it seems to me that's a big reason you started your podcast specifically. Is that am I on the right track there?
It is, yeah. Obviously, I had a very personal experience with post-traumatic stress that went quite deep and dark. And then as I went through my own healing journey, quickly realized just how important it was for me to, to share my story and some of the tools that I had learned and give back to that community that can become so impacted by trauma, but yet is just, like many of us, so often forgotten about, because we are kind of that quiet professional that just kind of hums and exists in the background. And I know one day when I was sitting there and just looking at the realities of some of the suicides that happened within our colleagues in our working lives, and the statistics behind post-traumatic stress, I think we're upwards around 50% of the RCMP is diagnosed with some kind of mental health issue. I think municipalities are just slightly below that, but there's always that thought of, could it be higher, right? Could these 50% of people that have had the courage to step forward and actually go and get diagnosed and try and get help, could it be higher than that? And I've kind of long presumed that number is higher. So naturally, with the suicides we see that are so common and the mental health statistics that are out there, I knew it was such a natural fit that we do need to do more work to care for ourselves and get these stories out there. So yeah, I would have to agree this is a very, very delicate space, but one that's very, very much needed.
Yeah, that's a good wrap up of that topic for sure. Thank you. Nathan Romas in Edmonton, you and I talked a little bit about how police officers are really good storytellers, but what's your feeling? Like, actually, you've had a lot of military guests as well on your show. Are you finding a certain category of people are just better storytellers, or? And in our studio, we prime them with an offer of the beer fridge. But what about you guys?
Yeah. You know what? I think mine might be slightly different from the other guests here, just in the sense that a lot of mine, I do a lot of stuff on current events and politics and kind of some of the grittier, let's say, units or topics for discussion that, so when I'm trying to find guests, it can be a little difficult, maybe within the Edmonton Police Service, because it's a little close to home. And depending on certain environments, like politics-wise, some people are a little more hesitant. So I've actually kind of found that I've expanded outward really quick and not had so much internal guests. But I don't have like a particular group I would say is a better storyteller than another. I find every guest is actually really different, and that I, as the host, have to really adjust to the person that is in front of me or on the phone or Zoom. So it takes a lot more for me to kind of adjust to people. But on that, I did that series on the military guests that had a police connection. So they're either now serving with the police service or they train police officers to some capacity. They do get into the mental health aspect, a big part of, I think, anything that military and police officers deal with, and first responders in general. There's no getting away from it. So it's nice that we have all these other podcasts and platforms to have people on and discuss these important issues. So mine's not so focused on that, but yeah, it's definitely a very important topic.
Yeah, and when we started the True Blue podcast, one of the things that we thought was good for this platform was that we can actually, in our own little way, just by telling our stories, I think we can battle some of the things that police are dealing with in general, and the anti-police rhetoric, and how there's this us and them battle. And then we can also, expand to things that I think are, somewhat important for the whole world of policing, is recruiting and retention. And for us, we wanted to have that platform and be able to change the topic so that we can try and influence it just by talking about it. And because if you don't talk about it, then people don't know. And Neil from Bend Don't Break, tell me a little bit about your own position on the anti-police rhetoric, and you guys deal with it in the sense. I think your last episode you really kind of hammered home the issues of what a police officer has to go through when there's a public complaint.
No, absolutely, Matt. So, first of all, we're blessed to be able to have these inspirational and courageous and really brave people to be able to share their stories. And sometimes the conversation is even uncomfortable or uneasy, but that's one of the best ways for us all to heal, is to be able to listen to each other and then be able to understand different perspectives. And we try to deal with, not only police, but really the first responder community. So that includes fire, includes EHS, and also includes dispatchers to a certain extent. But one of the common themes that we often hear around police officers is around the internal stress of organizations. And really it puts all of us managers and leaders in organizations on notice about some of the stresses that our employees are facing and how we can hopefully help them through that and reduce some of that. And, I'm sure everyone on this call often hears from all of their employees and their colleagues that it's the internal stress that's more stressful than going to a call. And how do we deal with that? It's the complaint process. It's, in our case, the IIO and the OPCC, it's about how we manage those PSS complaints. And it digs into sort of all the difficulties many members face with the time delays and having this hang over their heads for a long period of time. And I think that we try to speak to the leaders as well. Hopefully we have some leaders listening that will be able to create environments for their members where we can help reduce some of that stress and hopefully make it a better place to work for everyone.
Yeah, thanks. One of the other, I'll call it a topic, but it's a huge topic, and that's the whole Canadian society, soft on crime, how our court sentences are, in my opinion, not up to actual reasonable standard anymore. I don't know if there's any accountability in some levels of our justice system, but it's very frustrating for us. And that's another topic that I found that we're actually barking a lot about. And I know across the country, finally, some politicians are starting to realize that, bail reform and so on needs to be straightened out. And even some of you guys, I know some of you had some episodes where, you're talking about that specific topic. So it's definitely on everyone's radar, but can I get some comments on the old soft on crime topics? Nathan Romas in Edmonton, you guys have kind of had a whole community that kind of went soft. I can almost see your left-wing lover group that's very similar to BC all of a sudden, which I didn't think it used to be. Any comments on that?
Yeah, definitely Edmonton has a different flavor than, I guess, much of the rest of Alberta. But with that being said, this podcast platform has been amazing at reaching out to, like, I've had the Justice Minister, Tyler Shandro, on the program twice. And I've got a city councillor that's going to be coming on next month, and hoping to get a couple more on. And this platform has allowed us to at least have those open discussions with the people and not just get the Twitter 2-sentence soundbite. In our city, I currently work with our gang suppression unit. We're a uniformed team that goes out and does venue walks, goes and checks on people, does condition checks, goes to their homes. So we are definitely out there getting recorded every day. And not that makes the job that much more difficult. You're just more aware of your surroundings. But I think what people need to realize is, depending on the environment that they kind of set up for you, so that's right from the politicians right down to the public, the environment that they create for you sometimes doesn't allow you to make it as safe as you could for them, the very people that you're there to protect. Maybe someone has a better way of saying it, but out here, sometimes it can be a little bit difficult, when you go and arrest somebody for a firearm. And before the end of your own shift, they're already released on bail. So we've had a quick turnaround like that where, they get in and there's nobody in the queue for a bail. They manage to get through pretty quick, and then they're back out. And you're like, this person was just walking around with a firearm. Danger to the public for a number of reasons. So, and with the discussions I've had with the Minister of Justice, hopefully some of the ones coming up here with City Council, I'm able to put that front line perspective in front of them without any filters, without any of the chain of command in between, or any other people in between playing the telephone game. That's kind of what we look to do.
Yeah. In BC, it feels like we're starting to see a little bit of a change of flavor with some of our politicians and so on, just saying, look, we've got to be a little tighter on, like you said, releasing before they're even finished being fingerprinted almost. They're already out there, and the paperwork's certainly not done. Josh or Scott, Ontario is probably feeling the same thing. Obviously, the scope is much bigger because, Ontario's 10 times the size of everybody else. Comments from that end of the country?
I'll turn that one over to Josh.
Scott, thanks. And it's certainly an issue out here. You've got 14, almost 15 million people in Ontario, so certainly we're seeing a lot of the same things that you're seeing out west there. I'm not going to claim to be smart enough to know what the answer is here, but I think it's important, and good on Nathan for continually raising this, that our podcasts be a place where these discussions can happen, where we can get together with elected officials, with representatives from the employer and the police association, and have these tough conversations on what bail reform looks like, accountability in the justice system, those court sentences you're talking about. Again, I don't know what the answer is, but I do think there's a significant role for the people on this call right now to play in helping the policing sector and the public come to some sort of consensus on how to move forward on this.
Yeah, thanks for that, Josh. So what I want to do now, fellas, is I just want to comment. So Nathan Kapler from the 1033 podcast, I just going to comment quickly about some of the best episodes I've heard for you. I know Lori White from the RCMP has been on a few podcasts around BC. Her story is unbelievable. Nathan's also talked about compassion fatigue. I really enjoyed that episode, and the other episodes that you've done with Dr. Jasmine Dean on PTSD. She's I think you've done a few with her, but she's fantastic. What's next for your podcast, Nathan, on 1033?
Yeah, it's kind of blossomed into it. by so many people throughout Canada. And at first, it was just first responders and police officers.
Yeah.
But now I'm also hearing from psychologists and psychiatrists that are interested in this space of helping us heal. And there's such a unique and beautiful community of people, even beyond first responders, that are so invested in helping us, support us, because they know all of the challenges that we go through, and their hearts and the compassion are there. So I think my focus is just to continue to let this community kind of take shape as others kind of reach out and reach in and want to invest in the space. And I think as cops, we tend to have some control issues. So I know I have my own, but I've kind of just relinquished the fact that, it's probably best to let this community kind of take its own shape now. And I've kind of stepped back from this desiring post of trying to mold or manage it now, and it's kind of just taking its own beautiful shape. So I don't really have an answer for that other than just letting it kind of grow and just continue to move forward. And I think that's kind of the best way to approach growth sometimes is we need to get out of our own way, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'll just continue to help support people so that they can step forward and share the story.
I love it because, you can't stop water. It's going to flow. So you got to let it go. I agree. Guys over at the OPPA, the 10-5 podcast, obviously you're doing a lot of stuff for your members. And one of them that I really love was Dr. Glenn Landry. I know he's a Lower Mainland guy, but he talks about sleep for first responders. And that's a guy I want to get on our podcast one day. But I was driving down south one time and I was listening to Sarah Rochier and her story about her husband who suicided on the job. And that was, I had to stop the truck, put it that way. It was a tough one to listen to. What's next for 10-5? Do you guys, what about you guys? Do you have a favorite episode?
I think one of my favorite episodes is a long time 30-year sergeant on the road. His name's Bruce Angel, and he decided after going through some therapy through our Encompass Mental Health Wellness program that he wanted to tell his journey, and he was so well respected out on the job in so many different capacities, as a uniform frontline sergeant and as an investigator. And he also had a couple of, I believe, 2 sons on the job. And he had gone to some very difficult calls, especially during COVID, involving suicides. And he just needed to put his hand up and ask for some help. And he came on and very candidly told his story, and the number of emails that we got back from that wanting to connect with Bruce, from I knew that guy and I just want to talk with him and I feel the same way and stuff like that. So I think for me, that was one of my most favorite podcasts. I'm going to throw it over to Josh there for his favorite as well. And just for going forward on our podcast, Josh has probably maybe got some news on that end too. So over to Josh.
Yeah, I think you hit kind of the 2 of them there, and I won't say too much more than that. I mean, Bruce's episode was so compelling, and I remember editing Sarah's content because we had a couple episodes with her back to back on, and I remember sitting in my office and literally just crying while I was editing this thing. It was so raw and so powerful. It just resonated with me tremendously. For what's next, I actually, and Matt, we talked about this before I got on, I took some time off to go stop and smell the roses here, so I've been off since the end of December. And I was going to be off work for a little bit, but they called me and I'm coming back to act as the manager of member services for the association for a year or so. So that means Emily Brown's going to be stepping into the host chair with Scott Mills. And actually the communications team is going to be one of the teams that reports to me now in an awkward and hilarious turn of events. So certainly wishing them nothing but the best. I mean, Scott's a heck of a communicator, and I know they're going to do great things going forward.
Yeah, that's awesome news. And we'll shout out to Emily. Welcome to the podcast world. I'm sure we'll listen to her in the future. And it's interesting, you guys have, a whole communications team, because between Sidekick Steve and Todd Mason and myself, that's about it for our group. But
well, the team is two. Don't get your hopes up too high in there.
Okay. So, and over at Bend Don't Break, Chief, I know you've had I think you've had 4 Victoria members on your podcast. Of course, they're all my favorites. But the one that sticks out in my mind, again, Lori White, she was fantastic. She's been on so many podcasts, but her story is just great. But one of the first ones you guys did was with Jordan McWilliams at the Starlight Casino shooting. And I thought the realness of the whole situation came across with that podcast, and that was probably one of my favorite. What about you, Chief?
Jordan's podcast is awesome, and I always say my favorite one is the next one, obviously, but Jordan sticks out in my mind from the Starlight Casino and what he went through after being charged with murder, and then, having that withdrawn down the road. But, significant challenge, and for a guy that was just doing his job and did it very well. And Jordan's so articulate and able to communicate in an effective manner. It was great. But Jenny from the Victoria Police Department as well, I might pronounce this wrong, but you can help me here, Matt, and it's LeCoisney?
LeCain, Jenny LeCain, yeah.
LeCain, yeah. It was terrific as well. She it was real. It was very passionate, and obviously you could just understand the pain that she had gone through for a significant period of time with her matters there that she dealt with in Victoria.
Yeah, thanks. I agree, Jenny. It was great to have her come and chat with us, and even better when she got the opportunity to tell more about her story, because I think that's also a little bit of that therapy that we all need sometimes, is just talking to somebody. So that's why I have you guys on the phone today. I need the therapy.
Yeah. It's funny. I'm taping one right after here today, Matt, and it's Johnny Morris from the Canadian Mental Health Association, and he's going to talk about sort of his support that he's bringing forward for first responders. So it's going to be quite interesting as well to see that more people are becoming alive to the fact that they need to support first responders, and I think it's a great message that all podcasts are getting out on this particular issue.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and look forward to that episode. So, gentlemen, I don't want to rattle around the room too much, but so I think I'm going to wrap up the podcast and thank all of you for joining us. Normally, we hand out the True Blue podcast coin. You're not in the room, but one will be in the mail. And really appreciate you guys spending a few minutes of your time chatting with us. And I'm going to do my best to kind of spread the word about all of your podcasts. And I know amongst all of the podcasts, there's just some amazing topics and amazing people to talk to. So I really appreciate everyone's effort for chatting with us today. And that'll be it for the True Blue podcast this week. And we'll chat with everybody later.
Thank you for listening to the True Blue podcast. Join us next time for more stories about policing in Victoria and Esquimalt. The True Blue podcast is sponsored by the Victoria City Police Union. Thanks to our media partners H2 Accelerator, who have helped design and deliver our new improved marketing strategies. Thank you to our master of music, Gord McKee. Special thanks to the creators of the True Blue podcast. Host, Matt Waterman. Sound and editing, Todd Mason. Concept design, Daryl Baswick. And Sidekick Steve for the production and sound studio. Thank you for listening to the True Blue podcast.